So, Key, you were drafted number 1 overall by the Jets 28 years ago.
Say, man, stop that.
What, you don't like the
Yeah, the 28 is long.
Almost 3 decades. Almost
Man,
3
so long.
decades ago,
I'm
you were
still
drafted.
fresh, though, so it doesn't matter.
Do you like the moves that the Jets just made?
You know, first of all, I was shocked that they fired Robert Saleh. I mean, I was like, huh? But, you know, you could, I don't know if you could see it coming at some point throughout the year if they didn't get on track. We had talked about Joe Douglas as well, having, you know, looked at the way they've been playing and stuff like that. I was shocked at that because they were only 2-3 at the time. So had it been the middle of the year, yeah. The moves that they made by getting rid of him, I necessarily didn't like. But now you go from him to the defensive coordinator deciding that he's going to be the head coach, but he's removing Hackett from the offensive play calling to bring in Todd Downing to call plays. Now you're like, okay, I get it, I understand it. This is leaning more toward Breece Hall and Allen running the ball and less about Aaron Rodgers throwing the football all over the lot.
Right.
So I kind of understand to a degree of what they're trying to do. You move from one defensive-minded coach to another defensive-minded head coach when you are still in the thick of things within the division, let alone you still in the thick of things in the conference. You know, all of a sudden Kansas City gets on a bad run and they lose 1 or 2 games, and then Baltimore loses another game or 2, and then all of a sudden Houston loses another game or 2, and you right in the mix to get one of them top seeds. So I really don't understand what the motivation was behind the Robert Saleh dismissal. It happened. I mean, all you can do is say, good luck. Let's see where it goes from here. They got Buffalo this week. Let's see. Let's see if it changes and it helps.
All right. I mean,
like
I actually like the move because it got to the point that we were constantly talking about Rodgers' relationship with Saleh than the actual games. And so sometimes when things like this happen in the middle of a season, you need a breath of fresh air and a new voice. Because I just felt like the writing was on the wall. It was right. The writing was on the wall just because of Rodgers' Saleh relationship, week in and week out. It just seemed like something wasn't clicking, and now you bring in a different voice. And so, you know, sometimes it could go one way or the other way. You know, I've been on teams where we got a new coach, we took off. I've been on teams where we got a new coach and it didn't go the right way at first, maybe turn around. You know, when the expectations are Super Bowl here, somebody has to be the scapegoat. And that's what Robert Saleh was. I mean, you look at, you know, with Hackett over there, an offensive coordinator, they haven't been performing well, so they move him to the side. And so they've been one of the worst offenses in all of football. And so I do like the move at this point because, like I said, Key, we all talked about this is a team that's Super Bowl or bust. So let's see what happens now.
I don't think this is anything for anyone to be excited about. I mean, the season's over to me. That's
Man, it's over?
2-3, Joy.
This reeks of panic. It just reeks of it. You're 2-3. If you win against the Bills this weekend, you're in first place.
Yeah.
So
does it reek of panic or does it reek of an owner who wants to control and take his ball and run home? Like, is that, because that's what it feels to me. It's like, I'm in control. I'm going to do it my way. You 2-3.
Okay, so let's hope this works out then. Because if you had some questions about whether Robert Saleh was the guy or not, why wouldn't you address that in the offseason? I'm sorry, I think that coaching is so important.
It is.
Particularly in the NFL, because there are so many moving parts. There's so many things that you have to pay attention to. There's so many details. There's so many different personalities. There's so many different elements to the game. A head coaching change at this point in the season is not something that I would support unless they hadn't won a game yet. If they just looked like they were complete disarray, everyone is freaking out, they're 0-5, okay, do what you need to do. But that's not the situation. And look, they haven't played up to the standard that some people expected for them this year. But this is not the move. Now, look, are they going to win some more games this year? Sure. They have some talent. But this is going to be completely contingent on what Aaron Rodgers does. Let's be honest. The reason why they're struggling is because of Aaron Rodgers.
Bottom line.
And I don't know that Robert Saleh is a good coach or a bad coach. He doesn't have a good record. He's been through a lot from the quarterback's position. I didn't really feel like they were building a culture at all. So maybe he wasn't the guy. But you're certainly going to give him this season. On top of that, this is not a situation where this is a young quarterback and you don't want to ruin him, or you're kind of in the place where you were just kind of trying to make the playoffs and you had some expectations. This is a team that was talking about the Super Bowl before the year.
Yes.
You feel like this move gets you closer to the Super Bowl?
Nope.
No, not at all.
So what was this for?
Somebody seeing
Who
all
is this move for?
It was all about having a scapegoat. So now if things don't go what they had planned for, well, you know, Robert Saleh was to blame for all of that. When in actual reality, the bottom line is Rodgers has to play better, period.
I mean, that's all it is to me. I don't see how this is a combination of several people's faults. It's not that it wasn't at all Robert Saleh's fault. I do think that some of this falls on the coaching. He's a defensive coach. Yes, the defense has improved, but you are the head coach. You're not the defensive coordinator. If things are not going according to plan, you're still responsible for that as the whole of the team. So I don't think this is the answer. I don't think they're going to turn things around, but what do you expect from the Jets moving forward, Key?
I think they'll get better offensively. I really do.
Because they'll run the ball more.
Yeah, Todd Downing's going to take over. He's had previous stops in Tennessee as well as in Oakland as the offensive play caller, but I don't necessarily know if he was calling plays in Oakland, so to speak. He was the coordinator by title.
Right.
But he also was a passing game coordinator over the last couple of years for the Jets. But I think they're going to run the ball a little bit more. So the offense will get slightly better to help Aaron Rodgers, so Aaron Rodgers doesn't have to try to do everything by himself with his arm. Defensively, I think they'll still be solid and sound because all you're doing is replacing one defensive mind with another defensive mind. That's really what you're doing. So I think the defense will still be whatever that is. But the interesting thing, will he be able to focus in on just being the defensive coordinator / head coach, or will he try to be the head coach / defensive coordinator? And what I mean by that is when you become a head coach, whether it's interim or full time, your responsibilities change. It just changes. But you can get it done because you have an offensive coordinator, you have a special teams coordinator. Now you the DC, that's the head coach. Just call the defense. Just call the defense. Don't try to be a head coach. Don't try to take on this head coaching kind of, I'm the guy in charge now and I'm going to be running the offense. Just be the DC, call the defense. Understand the offensive coordinator will do the offensive side of the ball. When timeouts or challenges need to be made, have somebody help you with that. And then let's see how it goes. Don't get caught up in that being Aaron Rodgers and all of a sudden starting to listen to everything Aaron Rodgers is saying, because Aaron Rodgers could be your worst enemy at the same time because he is the $50 million quarterback.
You're asking for a lot there, Key.
Not really.
He just asked for the head coach not to be the head coach.
Don't be the head coach. Don't be the head coach.
So the head coach,
Don't be the head coach.
that just got the opportunity to be the interim coach.
Yeah, just be the coordinator, man.
Don't be a
just be
leader,
the coordinator.
Don't be the voice of reason.
Don't listen to Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, but what'll happen is when you try to take on the responsibility as a head coach, like just now all of a sudden I'm gonna be a head coach, your defense, the thing that got you the job, is gonna start to suffer some because you focusing in too much on that. You can still have positive production by not trying to wear a head coach's hat. When you try to wear a head coach's hat, when that ain't something that you are accustomed to and used to doing, you're going to be in trouble.
My thing about all of this, like when you change head coaches and you move people around, like what actually changes? It's not like you go and say, hey, we're going to put in a whole new offensive playbook. We're going to put a whole new defensive system based on what you've been doing all of training camp with that playbook. Now some new voices are at the head. Do you change those things? Like what changes in their
That's
offense?
what I'm saying, Paul.
You know what I'm saying?
Change.
That's what I'm saying.
Just be a coordinator.
So I don't know how much I can expect, from the Jets. If nothing, only thing that changes
Offense will change a little bit.
Yeah, but like now we going into a new plays and stuff now.
No, you just the offensive coordinator in Todd Downing will now be able to call things that he probably wanted to call, even though he wasn't the coordinator, and Hackett wasn't calling them. So now he'll be able to look at it and say, because we see it all the time, right? When you look at a couple years ago, Buffalo Bills Joey went from Ken Dorsey to Joe Brady. They look like a different team. They start running the ball more. They look
was that like in the middle of the season?
Yeah, middle of the season.
Okay.
They just said, out, you're in, and it became a different offensive unit.
Yeah.
That can happen because, like anything, when you sitting back and you not in control, you ain't really saying that. You mumbling to yourself in the meeting rooms. Now you in control.
Oh, right.
Now you in control. That mumbling is over with. You at the board. That dude that was calling, he just sitting back chilling. He ain't got much to say.
Okay.
You wanted to run the ball on third down. You wanted to throw a screen, but you weren't the one calling it.
So we're attributing the Jets' offensive struggles to Nathaniel Hackett only?
No, Aaron Rodgers got a little bit of that, but is Aaron Rodgers is Nathaniel Hackett calling it to have Aaron Rodgers be as successful as he can, or is he calling it based on what Aaron Rodgers wanted to call? Mm-hmm. Understand?
Yeah.
Is Aaron Rodgers overriding Nathaniel Hackett where
Todd
he won't?
Downing is going to stand
just,
hey, man,
you know,
it's his
on
time
business.
to shine.
No, Aaron.
But you ain't got to say no.
well, I think you got
You ain't got to say no. You just can suggest, hey, I'd rather do this.
Right.
Yeah, because I'm auditioning right now to be the full-time coordinator if, in fact, we are retained as a coaching staff if we do the things right. You don't think they all auditioning? Everybody's auditioning.
Yeah, of course everyone's auditioning.
So they want to be retained.
But also the dynamics in the building still remain what they are. That still is Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, they're not going to switch a coordinator for the third time, though. They ain't going to do that.
But what they did was they can probably get Aaron out of his comfort zone. You know what I'm saying? Because sometimes you get in your comfort zone with Hackett and y'all running stuff and it's not working. But but now you get out your comfort zone, maybe we can start doing things that the coaching staff actually wants to do to improve the offense.
It sounds good. I don't know that I'm buying that's how it's all going to go down.
I'm just... I don't know
I'm not
that's the
saying
way it's going to go either.
They're not going to win another game this season. I'm not going that far. I think that they're going to be a middle of the pack team, which is what I expected them from the beginning of the season.
They're 2-3.
One game from being the tie for first place.
Yes.
Yeah.
Why would you fire the coach?
I don't know why they fired the coach. I would not have fired the coach. I don't think that this is.
They lose to the Denver
firing the coach
Broncos.
and then making a defensive coordinator the interim head coach. If you were going to fire the coach, you would, in my mind,
What
the
they should have
offensive
done
struggling is you're putting in an offensive interim coach.
What they should have
done, or just
done,
make the coordinator move and keep Robert Saleh.
That's what they should have done. They should have took in Nathaniel Hackett. He should have fired Nathaniel Hackett on the spot, and then put the OC in. But he should have done that a week ago after the Denver loss. He should have said, even though it was in the rain and you hate that in the monsoon, everybody plays in the rain. I get it, Joy.
It was so rainy.
Yes, I know. But he should have made that move after the Denver. That's what Saleh should have did.
I mean, to me, this is just the same dysfunctional organization that it's been for years.
I am finally finally with you on the dysfunction of the Jets organization under Woody Johnson's direction. Yes, I am finally there. Finally.
This was not a
They can't get out. They can't. The typical Jet thing. They can't get out their own way.
Well, both Rodgers and Jets owner Woody Johnson acknowledged that they talked on Monday night and claim that Robert Saleh never came up. So, Paul, are you buying that?
I mean, if they've had a conversation, this is something that definitely comes up because when you're a franchise quarterback and you're well respected like Aaron Rodgers, you value his opinion. This is a guy who's a Hall of Fame 4-time MVP. You know, he's won everything you could possibly win. You value his opinion. So for me to think that they talked about how the kids are doing or how his ankle injury is doing and not talk about Saleh, that's completely bull to me. They have to have had some conversation about what's going to happen with the head coaching situation. It just is what it is.
I laugh because what you asked Paul when you teed him up about the conversation, I was thinking to myself, that's like me saying that I don't see certain things on my phone that people text me on a daily basis about individuals that I work with. You know, that's like me sitting there. I never see that. Never ever in my life have seen that. For him to sit up there, I know that's what I thought. I just thought about it in my mind. But for him to sit up there and say that there was no conversation, I don't care if it was a minute phone conversation or an hour phone conversation, that Robert Saleh named, they never had a conversation. I can tell you without telling you, oh, no, they talked about it. And I'm sure Aaron Rodgers, and look, nobody wants to be the bad guy.
Of course.
Like, you don't want to be the bad guy and say, well, yeah, I had him run out of the building. I don't want to be a coach killer. I get it. I understand that. You don't want to do it. But let's not sit up here and act as though Aaron Rodgers was just like, yeah, he's a great coach. We should keep him. Come on. Seriously? At some point, people are going to connect the dots, okay? They're going to connect the dots. The owner is infatuated with Aaron Rodgers for whatever reason. It just is. That's what owners, they love their quarterbacks. They give them all the money. They give them all the say. Think about the dynamics of quarterbacks with big money. Mm-hmm. They all get all the say. That's just the reality of it. That's the business. And so for us to think that he never had a conversation with that man, okay, let's say he didn't have a conversation.
Well, they had a conversation, but they didn't discuss.
They didn't discuss Robert Saleh.
Yeah.
And that may be true. I don't need to say his name. I don't need to discuss his name. I don't need to say anything. I can just simply say, you know, Joy, he's a good person, and we're trying really, really hard for him. And the owner says, hey, well, do you think he's the right guy for the job and we can move forward? Well, I'm going to tell you to do whatever you want to do because it's your team. If that's whatever you want to do, Mr. Woody Johnson, it's on you. That's all you need to say. He doesn't need to say anything else. It's like a wink, wink. Okay?
So they're gaslighting us.
If you're falling for it. I'm not falling for it.
Yeah.
Look, there's only one way this is true. If they didn't discuss Robert Saleh in any capacity, whether it be without saying so or directly saying so, Aaron Rodgers should be furious.
Absolutely.
He should be outside of his mind.
Absolutely.
Because that is so disrespectful for the owner to call him, have a conversation with him, and then fire the head coach the next day, and you didn't talk to me about it when you were on my line. I'm sorry. I could have gone to really most places in the NFL. I chose to come here. I gave you money back. I've worked in rehab to come back when I could have just retired off of an Achilles injury at my young age of 40 years old to come back and try and win a championship for this organization that hasn't been to the playoffs since 2010. And you on my phone, which I have to hook up to certain Wi-Fi's because it don't work everywhere, so I heard, and you're talking about everything but the head coach being fired?
It ain't even in life in general.
But not playing my face like that.
But look, Joy, not in football, just outside of football, life in general, every single job that I've ever had, whether it was in TV, whether it's radio, whether it was in football, whenever one of my coaches, one of my producers or anything, when the bosses had to make a decision, they communicated that with me. Hey, this is what we're thinking about doing. This is what we're going to do. We just want to let you know. We want your input on it because we don't want to do anything without you knowing. Mm-hmm. So for Aaron Rodgers to say that and Woody Johnson to say that, I'll never believe that because I've been in the rooms when head coaches have had to make decisions about personnel people, and I've been in the room when owners have had to make decisions about head coaches, as well as production in television when they had to make decisions, and they've come to me and said, hey, this is what we're thinking about doing. What you think?
Well, they must have a lot of respect for you. I can't say I've had the same experience, but I will say, though,
well,
I cannot imagine Aaron Rodgers on the phone with the owner
and
in no way. But there's loopholes here. You know what I mean? Like, we didn't say his name.
We didn't say his name.
Yeah, but Aaron Rodgers don't want to be the bad guy.
We didn't say, and fine. Like, let the owner be the bad guy.
Yeah, let the owner be the bad guy. Whether he did or inadvertently did, because if you wanted a guy there as a franchise guy, you're going to be like, no.
Well, first of all, Aaron Rodgers.
Like when you say, what do I think of Saleh? I like him, but I don't love him. That's kind of like inadvertently saying,
well, also,
you
know if the owner is asking you this, what he's talking about. And look, Joey, we weren't on the phone, but
they're 2-3. Aaron Rodgers is trying to get back to the Super Bowl. Okay? No, they're 2-3, and Aaron Rodgers is one game out of first place.
Yeah,
he knows that doing this is going to disrupt whatever they're trying to do moving forward. So, if in fact the owner is having a conversation about replacing the head coach and you 2-3. Don't you think Aaron Rodgers say, man, hold on. We 2-3. We one game out of first place. What are you doing? What are you thinking about doing? Mm-hmm. Of course he would. Of course.
So you're saying Aaron doesn't care about winning a Super Bowl, or what are you saying?
He does. Because if he didn't, if in fact he didn't speak to the owner about them getting rid of Saleh, because when you talk about where they're at as a team right now, Aaron Rodgers, if it wasn't a problem with Saleh, he was standing on the table because of where they're at as a team. So clearly there was an issue with the coach, and he felt like they can go in another direction sitting at 2-3, one game out of first place. Think about that. If somebody came to me and said, we one game out of first place, we're going to fire the coach. At first thing I'm like, no, you're not. What are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's been conversations about what their relationship is actually like.
They didn't have
I don't. When a coach gets fired mid-season, it means either the season is completely lost,
Completely
and
lost.
you're just trying to make sure that you're just putting out some kind of material that people can get excited about, that people are still coming to games for. You're trying to keep your head high and just change the spirits. In this kind of situation, you win this game this weekend against the Bills, you're in first place in the division. You're in no way out of it at all. Obviously, the offense doesn't look like what people expected it to look like. Shocker, shocker, Aaron Rodgers hasn't played football in quite some time, is coming off an Achilles injury. This is his first time with this team. Perhaps maybe things might go a little slow. It might stumble out the blocks a little bit. I just think it was a really reactionary move, and generally these things are not something that leads to success.
Aaron Rodgers say he didn't know.
Well, maybe they didn't say his name, you know? That means he's technically not lying. You know, he was like immunized, you know? Words matter, Keyshawn. Subscribe here to get the latest from Speak, and go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.